There are a lot of ways to slice and dice the vote, and your point is a good one. If the implication is, look, there are a lot of Republicans now who are getting a pass for voting Democrat. They're getting a pass implicitly through people like Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney has aggressively gone out on the road with Kamala Harris. It was sort of the stuff that you're used to hearing. It was Liz Cheney up there saying, you know, Kamala Harris will protect the Constitution. Kamala Harris will work for the people. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it just didn't really give me much to sink my teeth into. I, as you know, am of divided mind on the Cheneys. Now, Liz Cheney is certainly the more palatable Cheney. Dick Cheney, I wish he would just go away. I couldn't have hated his endorsement of Kamala Harris more than I hated it. I think Dick Cheney is a war criminal. I think Dick Cheney has a dark spot in American history, and his involvement in the war in Iraq and the inflaming of that entire region through the war in Iraq to help his buddies at Halliburton and beyond, it's so reprehensible and disgusting and grotesque that I want nothing to do with her dad, Liz Cheney's dad, Dick Cheney. She, Liz Cheney, gave up her political career to speak out against Trump and to speak out what was going on essentially with a coup attempt and also with January 6th. I give her some credit for that. I think it took courage. And as I say, she sacrificed her entire political career. Now, she may reconstitute her political career in this weird space where you're between Republican and Democrat. The old GOP is dead, and now the new GOP, the rising MAGA GOP, the Trump-controlled GOP, doesn't have a spot for people like Liz Cheney. So she may find her way, and if Kamala Harris were to win, she could even serve in that administration as well. So the last thing I would say about Liz Cheney, though, and I'm sorry to make it a negative thing, but I still have an issue with Liz Cheney on the issues, meaning she's for a conservative Supreme Court, all right? She is for big tax cuts on wealthiest Americans. I don't see Liz Cheney as aligning with any of the values and any of the policies that I think work on the Democratic side. So I have this sort of love-hate relationship right now with Liz Cheney. But again, you know, people change, and I give people room to change in my own mind as I evaluate them. So that's how I see her. But she, on the road, she's literally barnstorming now with Kamala Harris, going stop to stop through Pennsylvania, through Wisconsin, through Michigan. It's quite impressive. So she's a person, it seems like, who's good to her word. I'll say that. And the last thing that I will say, just on this, and thanks for that email, because it kind of gets me started on this, is that there's a weird thing that's happened, and I guess we're so desperate to save democracy and to stave off the threat of Donald Trump that we're not as bothered by it. But we really judge Kamala Harris in a different way now. She's so open to the GOP. She's so open to Liz Cheney, for example. And there are so many GOPers who are coming over to back Kamala Harris, many of whom served in the Trump administration. These are powerful endorsements. But I'm just wondering, you juxtapose that against what Trump is saying about Kamala Harris, which is that she's a radical lefty, communist, socialist. I mean, he just throws this stuff out there. But that stuff is regurgitated by his followers. And all I would say is she's not radical left. You only need to know who's endorsing her to know she's not radical left. There is not a radical left bone in Kamala Harris's body. In fact, Trump, who wants to get the government involved in a big way in the free markets, you know, most of these Republicans are free marketeers. Well, Trump's all over it with tariffs. He wants to shut down industry from various countries. He wants the government to become very much involved in manipulating the markets. That'll have a detrimental effect on the American marketplace. He is far closer to a communist, government-controlled marketplace than Kamala Harris appears to be. The idea that you could be endorsed by Milley, Esper, Bolton, Kelly, Mattis, all of whom served under Donald Trump. I mean, it's an incredible thing. It really is. I mean, think about that. How many former officials from a past administration, where the guy's looking to be either reelected or elected in this case, would sign on to a joint statement endorsing your opponent? It's remarkable. And they don't just endorse the opponent. They speak vigorously and full-throatedly about the threat that the opponent is to national security and to the nation.
I mean, it had to be severe. All these people working with Trump and closely with Trump. Imagine how severe it would have to be for you to come out against him like that, to warn the American people like that. I don't know that this is quite as severe as that, or, earth-shattering, but yesterday I saw that another Republican is throwing support behind Harris, and that is Gerald Ford's daughter, Susan Ford Bales.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see
Susan
that?
Ford. Right.
Yeah,
Didn't see that, no.
she said that she has policy differences with Vice President Harris, but she said her integrity and commitment to the same principles that guided Dad have led me to conclude that Kamala Harris should be elected the 47th president of the United States. And in doing so, she also referenced January 6th and said that I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. So.
That's interesting. I mean, you don't think of Susan Ford as being politically active in any way, but nonetheless, it's like, get out of my way. I want to endorse Kamala Harris. No, I want to endorse her. I want to endorse her.
But she's from a heavily Republican family.
Sure.
It's a shakeup if they digress from their, long-held principles. And I think when you look at what those principles really are, it's putting the country first. So it's another example. And maybe if someone like Susan Ford Bales, is okay with supporting a Democrat, other people who have a problem with September, or rather January 6th, and what Trump is saying about the Constitution, maybe they'll go, oh, well, she's doing that. Okay. All right. I hear you.
Yeah, it's sort of what we were talking about. It's the excuse you need, like, okay, well, I guess, as a Republican, I can still vote Democrat here. Most of the indications are there are many high-profile Republicans who are doing that. One of the things, and I'll just mention this, is that they are quite aggressive in marketing this on the Harris side. So in swing states, they are marketing in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, et cetera, now, into Nevada and Arizona, et cetera. They are marketing the fact that, hey, look, his own people aren't voting for him. People who served in his administration. Not only that, they're out talking about how dangerous he is. Yep. Trump tapped then General Mark Milley to serve as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. After working side by side with Trump, Milley now believes the Republican is, quote, fascist to the core and, quote, the most dangerous person to this country. Trump tapped Mark Esper to serve as the secretary. There's Milley. Tapped Mark Esper to serve as the Secretary of Defense. After working side by side with Trump, Mark Esper concluded that Trump is, quote, unfit for office, a national security threat, and a threat to democracy. That was from his Secretary of Defense, Esper. Trump tapped General James Mattis to serve as the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense job, and like many Trump jobs, sort of a revolving door in a sense. You're only there for, a limited time. Remember, he called him Mad Dog Mattis. He introduced him as Mad Dog Mattis. Mm-hmm. After working side by side with Trump, Mattis reportedly told Bob Woodward that he also sees Trump as, quote, a threat to the United States. He tapped retired General John Kelly to serve first as the Homeland Security Secretary, then as White House Chief of Staff. After working side by side with Trump, retired General John Kelly concluded that Trump is, quote, poisoning people's minds and has serious character issues and is not a real man. Kelly also said that Trump has, quote, no idea what America stands for and has no idea what America is all about, and has nothing but contempt for our democratic institutions, our Constitution, and the rule of law. John Bolton, who served as his White House national security. And by the way, a lot of these guys are like, John Bolton, I have no appetite for this guy. But he called Trump straight. He worked side by side with Trump, and he warned, quote, a mountain of facts demonstrates that Trump is unfit to be president. If his first 4 years were bad, a second 4 years will be worse. So there's never been anything like this in American history. If you're an on-the-fence voter, you're realizing that leading members of the guy's own national security team are disgusted by him. They describe him as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, as a threat to national security. It's an extraordinary thing. It really is.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.